All right, joining me now on Inside TBT, Keith Langford, former Kansas player, incredible basketball player. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, sir. Man, extremely excited and glad to be taking part in this.
Absolutely. So, of course, you're on the show because breaking news, Kansas is putting the team back in TBT, Mass Street. I'll kind of hand it over to you from there, though. Like, what's the rundown? Why are you specifically playing? Let's hear it.
Yeah, so man, several different reasons. I kind of alluded to earlier. I'm probably one of the few people that um, the part of the excitement, the third or fourth thing on the list is the $1 million prize. But honestly, for me, I didn't finish my career the way I wanted to. Was forced out by injury, and so during the rehab process and and transitioning into retirement, I had an opportunity. Was contacted by Mass Street Collective and floated the idea of putting the team in and asking would I be a part of the process and then asked me to play. And so from that point, I was like, oh wow, I'm about to, kill two or three birds with one stone. So I was extremely excited. And the thing that sold me on the process, because I had opportunities in the past to play with TBT, but the thing that sold me was the ability, the way that Mass Street was putting the event together for us. I knew it was going to be local, close to the Kansas fan base. Can't wait to tap in with those guys. It's been years. And just from the professional aspect, I mean, they were just putting together a really high level project with a lot of high level ex-alumni, NBA, Europe. So man, I was extremely excited to be able to play in front of the fan base, be a part of a high level event, play in front of family, and really be able to play basketball and kind of put a finishing touch on a decade and a half career that I had.
Absolutely. It's extremely exciting. You guys are going to be playing, at Coke Arena in Wichita in like a super crazy mega regional where it's going to feel like there's 100 teams there, but there's really only going to be 16.
Right.
Are you confident in the KU fans showing up to Wichita?
I mean, I don't even think confident is I'm expecting. I'll put it that way. So I would be extremely shocked and surprised if the arena was even half or 3/4 full. I'll be shocked. So, and especially with who's affiliated, I mean, with the project. I mean, the names and the guys. I mean, I think the Kansas faithful are going to love to see all of these guys in one space competing and really playing and trying to put on a show. And so, especially, and leading the charge, Marcus Morris, is going to be coaching, fresh off, playoff loss, but, we're going to make amends for that. But man, Marcus signing on and heading the project. I know he's been part of TBT before, but I mean, man, he really was excited and really committed to the process. And I mean, guys are really taking this really serious. So I'm expecting the fans to support that, our seriousness and our approach to this as well.
So I'm expecting, and you can tell me if I'm wrong, you guys win a game, you win 2 games. Marcus might start, checking his contract, seeing if he's allowed to play in TBT. You think he would want to play if he could?
Listen, well, I already know he's going to be practicing. So he's already made that very clear. He's like, all right, I'm going to be coaching, but I'm definitely going to be participating in the practice sessions and the pickup games and stuff in the meantime. So, I mean, like I said, honestly, like we're all going to meet in Lawrence a week before or so to start preparation, and that's just the level of commitment and seriousness that everybody's taking to this project. So yeah, so hopefully Marcus has several more years to play in the NBA. I don't want him to compromise his eligibility at all, but his presence in the pickup games and the practices will be a very welcome sight.
It's going to be some high-level basketball in those practices and pickup games. We won't reveal too much. Of course, big names coming, but yes. You, Tyshawn Taylor, and Marcus Morris alone in a pickup game is pretty high level. So you
Right,
got to
right,
be
right.
pretty pumped about that.
Yeah, so I mean, and to be honest, me and Tyshawn Taylor, and I mean, obviously, with respect to our careers or whatever, but for the guys that are going to be participating, and the guys that we're looking to participate in this event, we're the bottom of the barrel when it comes to that. And I say that humbly, because that's the respect I have for the guys that we've been talking to and the guys that are going to participate. So, and that makes me excited because, my presence is just to be more of a veteran leader, spot and put in my impact when I can. So that being said, yeah, me, Tyshawn, Marcus, um, man, definitely were pillars putting this thing together. But I'm extremely, extremely excited for everyone to see who's involved and the way we're approaching this thing.
That's a great tease. So you mentioned that you're going to kind of sit back a little bit, little Jedi Master style, train your young Jedis to hopefully win
Yeah.
TBT. But let's talk about your career for a little bit. For the Kansas fans who haven't been as tapped in with you since you left Lawrence, can you tell me a little bit about what your basketball career has looked like?
Yeah.
I guess the
Yeah.
last, what is it, 15 years?
Right. So yeah, I mean, 17. So it should have been 17, but so the last year, I guess I'll start backwards. I had an Achilles surgery. So wasn't an Achilles tear, but it's an Achilles tendinopathy, which is just more like a degenerative condition. It's also a form of a tear. But anyway, I tried to rehab and come back from that, but really was very difficult, and I just decided to go ahead and have surgery and take um, the route to focus on the other side of life, and other side of basketball, which getting into a space of mentorship and player development and working with younger guys, this was a perfect opportunity with Mastery Collective and the TBT to to start that process. So, but as far as my career goes, after Kansas, um, which also was marred by injuries, the last year I had a couple knee surgeries, went undrafted, but was lucky enough to spend some time with the Rockets and the Spurs. After I was cut from the Spurs, got a phone call to go to Italy. Um, Went to Italy for the last 8 games of the season, and man, I never looked back. Knocked it out of the park. Went over there, found my niche, found a space, created, a legacy for myself, for my family. And so, man, and eventually, I ended up retiring as the all-time leading scorer, American scorer in European basketball history. Until this year was, Mike James, I think he's played in the TBT before. I
Oh,
think
yeah.
Mike James just passed me this past season. So shout out to Mike James, big time player, friend of mine, a great. So needless to say, the last 16 years in Europe were great to me. Was able to accomplish a lot, win championships, MVPs, and really just I never saw myself playing basketball that long, and so to be able to facilitate a career like that, very very exciting. And this opportunity here, to me, is the ideal way to put the cherry on top.
It's your last dance, is what it's sounding like.
Literally the
And
last.
I got to tell you, based on this interview, so I went to Mizzou. I'm a Mizzou fan, but it's all good here.
Ouch.
I
Ouch.
I can't believe I'm
You went to
saying this.
Mizzou and I'm doing an interview in a purple T-shirt. What could
Well,
be worse,
well, you're
So,
making me be like a Kansas fan right now. Like I want you to be holding the trophy at the end
oh wow.
of
Okay.
TBT. But there is a potential, Kansas alumni team versus Mizzou alumni team matchup. But
Nice.
after this interview, I don't know who I'm going to be rooting for. But is that something you would be excited about, or like screw those guys? We don't want to give them the attention.
I would be extremely excited to walk on the floor and see Ricky Paulding or Kareem Rush or Arthur. I forgot his last name. God, Arthur Johnson. I would love to see any of them, but I don't know, man. We're old guys, man. So I'm 39, so a couple those guys are a couple years older than me. So there's no telling. But the fact that it would be Missouri, Kansas, man, I think that the potential even of that is exciting. I'm not as familiar with some of the younger generation guys, but even still, like man, it's been decades, and you know, I think I still have the touch for that game. You know, closed down the Hearn Center all those years ago. So I mean, you know, I have no problem, you know, shutting Mizzou down one more time, bro.
I love it. I love it. I'm not even gonna like rebuttal that. I love it. It's my favorite kind of basketball is trash talk in your face basketball. But
Right. Yeah. And nothing's personal when we lead. Actually, with Missouri, it is personal, but you're so yeah. But anyway, I mean, hopefully, if that comes to pass, I love it. And saying that to say, I do love the theme that the TBT is going with, like, you know, really building these very strong alumni based teams, high level basketball. I think it's going to be a really good
absolutely.
product.
So you mentioned closing down the Hearn Center. That's probably a very memorable moment for you at Kansas. But can you tell me, you know, a few other moments that stick out to you when you think back, you know, 40 years ago to your time at Kansas?
Nice, nice. So yeah, obviously the Final Fours stand out. You know, going to back-to-back Final Fours with Coach Williams, great times. And you know, honestly, you know, I'm still in a group chat to this day with the, you know, it's 5 freshmen that came into my class, you know, 20 years ago, just to get you right. I mean, but that camaraderie, that day to day, you know, just walking into your brother's dorm room, you know, the jokes in the locker room, the travel, the, you know, the hotels, you know, those moments. And I think a lot of athletes, you know, tend to miss those moments, and it's just because, you know, it'll never be like that again, and literally it's never been like that again. So I've definitely had other opportunities to play, won other championships, been a part of other, like, you know, team settings, but that connection with those guys, you know, the memories that we have and the stories that we tell sometimes, you know, amongst the Big 12 championships and the victories and the Final Fours and all that stuff, like I miss the day to day with those guys.
That's awesome stuff. You know, you've been a basketball player for a long time when you played for Roy Williams, and he now has left Kansas, went to another school, won championships at that school, and has retired. So you know you've had a long career. When
Literally, I did a podcast not too long ago, and the guy was saying that, hey man, when I was 8 years old, like when you guys, I was like, oh my god, man, like, so yeah, man, time to just, you know, it's one of those things. But when you, the great thing about being older and looking back on some of that stuff is that if you've accomplished a lot and impacted people, all right, it's cool. But if you look up one day and you're 40 and nobody has anything to say about you, then that's a problem. So.
I like that. Last question for you has nothing to do with basketball, has nothing to do with TBT. It actually does kind of have to do with basketball. So the all-time leading scorer until Mike James, all-time leading scoring American and European basketball history. You obviously have traveled a lot, you know, from America to Europe, from Europe to all the different countries. How many airline points do you have, and what airline do you have the most points with?
Great question, man. Listen, I have enough airline points to fly business in first class until I don't want to fly anymore. So I'll put it like that.
For free?
Free, yeah, literally. I literally can fly business class anywhere I want at any time. So I like it's 16 years worth of airline points is, it adds up, man. It's a lot. So great question. That's the first time I've ever been asked that question. But and I'm not the only one. I mean, I'm sure that there's a lot of American guys who, a lot of, even the I really got it from the foreign players. You know, in all the countries, Italy, Russia, Greece, Israel, all these different places, China, and like that's the first thing that everybody does when you get off the bus and you walk into the airport. Nobody goes to the gate. Everybody goes straight to the desk to get the points for the flight, man. So yeah, so I definitely, that is one of the perks, man. You know, free flights as a retired person is a great perk of playing overseas.
I love it. So it actually made me think of one more question. So I'm reading this book right now, funny enough. It's called
Okay.
Can't I Keep My Jersey? Uh, Paul Shirley, former basketball player, played like,
Yeah, Paul Shirley.
yeah,
Yeah.
11 teams, 5 countries, 4 years. So there's some crazy stories in this book. Do you have like a crazy team travel story, anything like that?
Um, okay, so I have a travel story and I have, okay. All right, so I do have a travel. one time, actually, you know what? I'll tell a story from Russia. You know, so I played in Russia for 5 years. Playing in Moscow. Um, Actually, you know what? I'll get two quick ones. First story: we're flying private to. We're going to France one time, and we're all on the private plane, and we're sitting there. You know, everybody's relaxing, and literally, as the plane is taking off, as a Russian teammate of mine, his name is Alexei Sabrasenko. He's like, "Oh no!" And everybody's like, "Oh, what's going on?" Like, you know, we're thinking that like something's happening. He's like, "Oh no, 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 no!" And it's like, what? And he forgot his passport. So like, because literally at that time we were flying private, like, you know, we don't need, you know, sometimes, you know, when the people get to know you and everything, you can kind of travel like a little freely. You know, and he's a veteran, they know him. So he gets on the plane, we're taking off. He doesn't have his passport. So when we land, obviously he can't get into the next country, especially as a Russian, right? So literally the team makes him pay for um, the plane to to fly back. He flies back by himself to fly back and then fly back to France. And literally did, but this guy had the money to be able to do it. So I was just like giving a preview, like, man, like, so, and this is what, 2009. So Alex said, man, forgets his passport. We land in France. We were playing in Le Mans, France. Lands in France. Team makes him pay for the private to go back to Russia. Flies, turns right back around. And then the guy still makes the game. It's crazy.
Wow.
And then second story, um, literally at one time, you know what? Maybe you guys can edit the video. Maybe I can't tell that story. I don't. Can I tell it and then you can decide if it's good enough? I don't want. I don't know if it's okay.
You tell it, and I'll cut it if it has to be cut.
Okay. All right. Cool. So look. So I'm playing in Russia at this time, and so you know in Russia they have and sometimes they will pay in like they'll pay you in cash, right, in whatever currency that you're from. And so literally, and so what you do is you take the cash, and they have a relationship with certain banks, and you go to the bank, and then you're able to deposit the money, and then wire it to wherever you want to wire it to, right? So on times when they would pay us in cash, certain times they would pay us in cash, we would excuse me, they would always give us a security guard and a translator to go with us, right? So I go to, so you know, I go in, I get my, you know, my cash payment, and I'm going with the translator, and I get to the, now mind you, this is, you know, 2009, 2010, so this is a little bit before social media really takes off, no Instagram, nothing like that, and so you know, I mean, but I'm, you know, this is BlackBerry time, so we get to the bank, and you know, the bank teller is putting everything through the money machine, and you know, I'm kind of like sneaking pictures with my BlackBerry, and like, you know, so now mind you, as a 25, 26-year-old, I'm showing my age a little bit at that time. Like, had I had Instagram, had Instagram been around, this would have been my time to shine. So anyway, but I start to notice that the bank teller every now and then, after it goes through the money machine, she takes it out and she's putting some money over to the side. And I'm just like, hey, what's going on? I'm telling the translator, hey, you see what's she doing with that money right there? And she's like, and so the translator asked her, she said something in Russian. She says it back. And then she was like, don't worry, I'll tell you when she finishes. So she keeps going. Finally, you know, but she keeps periodically putting money over to the side. And I'm like, man, you know, and I'm starting to get upset. But anyway, we leave. She gives her the money back in the envelope. We leave, we're walking to the car, and we get in the car. I was like, hey, what was going on with that? She says, Keith, we're going back to the gym right now to meet with the owner, the president of the team. But because she said that they cannot accept money that is that has either been wet or has traces of cocaine on it. And I was like, I said, are you serious? I was like, oh, damn, are you serious? And she was like, yes, but don't worry. We will go back and we will talk to the president and we will sort this issue out. So we get back to the gym, take this elevator to the top of the arena. We go, and then there's this big wooden door. And then behind the wooden door, there's this big steel door. So like, open the door, go in the office, and you know, it's kind of like a thing out of a movie. It's like, you know, a big fat Russian guy with a big mole on his face, and he's sitting there, and his head is down, and he's just like, now he wasn't typing, he's like writing something. And then so anyway, she walks in, she explains everything to him, and he's looking at her, and he's looking at me, and he's looking at her, and then so behind him, man, there's like this big safe. So he turns around, and opens the safe up and literally opens the safe. There's euros, dollars, rubles. I mean, just all these different currencies in there. And he's like, and he turns around, he's like, oh, and he asks her in Russian, like, how much? And then she's like, okay. And he takes the money out. He's like, oh, okay, this is good money. Good money. Okay, go. Thank you. And then he takes the money that she brought him, throws it over to the side, and then he's like, okay, bye. And then goes back to writing down whatever he was writing. And then so that was kind of like, oh wow, welcome to Russia moment. You know what I'm saying?
That is crazy. I don't think we have to cut that out. One, it's almost 15 years ago, and two, that's unbelievable. That's did you get shorted or anything, or at the end of the day, you had all the money you needed?
No, I never got shorted, man. It ended up being like, a few $1,000, but so it wasn't anything crazy. But he just, you know, he turned around and just had it like it was it wasn't a big deal, but then at the same time it was like, all right, I took care of it. Can you please leave so I can finish going? Like it was just like, and I'm telling you, man, Russia is just one of those places that, like, with respect to everything that Brittany Griner is going through, and with the political situation and everything in the world. It's just one of those places where you can do everything you want to until you can't. You know what I mean? And it really exists in like a weird space like that. And so that was just one of those things where, all right, you go to the bank, the money's wet, it has cocaine residue. All right, it's all right. And then I don't know, maybe the next time you go, like there'll be armed security around waiting, to take you in. So and you just always exist in these weird spaces, but pays well, and it's basketball, so people do what they have to do. But like I said, welcome to Russia moment. That was incredible.
Well, there you go. I mean, that's a great way to end this interview. I didn't think that story was going to go the way it did, but I'm happy it did because it's exciting stuff.
Yeah.
Keith, before I get you out of here, any questions for me before I get you out of here?
Nah, man. I just no questions, but I'm just going to reiterate again, man. I'm new to it. I've obviously over the years when I was in my prime playing, like I was invited multiple times to play, but from the standpoint of man, we're approaching this thing, Mastery, the Mastery Collective, the guys that are participating, we're just approaching this thing to like, we really want to make it as high level as possible, and we're trying to get rid of that. We want to really get rid of the stigma of that high level players don't participate. I mean, because I've seen overseas elite, I've seen the Mike James and the Nick Kalates of the world, the Kyle Hines, like they participate in this event, and we really are just trying to like take what those guys did and then go even a step further, because man, this is a real good opportunity to play some really good high level basketball and put on a really good event. So I'm glad to be taking part in it. And like I said, selfishly, my motivation really isn't the million, but the winning, the competition, the finishing of my career is, and having $1 million on top of it is a nice way to go out. So I love that aspect. So man, I'm looking forward to it. I'm glad to be doing this interview. I appreciate your time, and man, I'm definitely ready. So I will be ready. I have until July to get these old bones going.
Get in shape. Get ready for TBT. Thanks for coming on the show.
All right, bro. I appreciate you.